Hi, my name's Tim Shevlin, owner of the Matlacha Wellness Center, and today I'm going to talk to you about cheat meals. Now, I get a lot of questions about cheat meals. Should I have one? Shouldn't I? Are they beneficial? Will they set me back? Well, hopefully I'm going to answer some of your questions today. So, first let's start out, what is a cheat meal? Well, basically, a cheat meal is any change from your standard deviation of the nutrition that you're eating. So let's say you're eating a set number of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats per meal every day. And then 1 or 2 days a week, you have a meal where maybe your carbohydrate intake triples. Maybe your fat intake triples. Maybe you don't worry about protein. Maybe you go for something that has a lot of sugars. It's just basically a change from your norm. And that's essentially all cheat meal is. And even the term cheat meal isn't really the best choice of words. It's more deviation from the norm. So that's kind of what a cheat meal is. Now, there are two different types of mindsets that I come across on a regular basis as far as the whole cheat meals go. The first one is, and this one's a little less common, but if I have a cheat meal, I won't be able to get back on track. It's kind of the mindset that of all or nothing, that once I'm doing something, if I have any variation from that, I'll fall off the wagon. And those are a little bit more difficult to kind of have cheat meals, basically, because you don't want that to happen. So with those kind of mindsets, we tread lightly. We do very small variations for cheat meals. Maybe we just double the carbohydrates, one meal, one time a week. And that's where we start with, and then we can go from there. But you want to be careful with that kind of mindset. The other mindset, which is much easier to work with, is I really look forward to the cheat meal. I can't wait for it. That's what keeps me going during the week. That keeps me motivated. When I know I'm having a cheat meal that day, I work out extra hard because I'm excited about it. And that's very easy to work with, because you don't have to worry about someone falling off the wagon with that one. Generally, they're super excited about the cheat meal or the deviation from the norm meal, and they are really excited about it. They go for it, they work for it, and those ones are a little bit easier to work with and not worry about someone then not following their diet ever again. So there's also different types of cheat meals. Now, the type of cheat meal that I like the best is one that doesn't really change the type of food that you're eating. Now, I'm very into clean eating across the board. I'm into very natural, focused, holistic, organic kind of food sources. That's what I like. So when I have a cheat meal, it's going to be something like sushi, where my carbohydrate intake's much higher, and I don't necessarily worry about how much protein or carbohydrates I'm eating. Basically, eat as much as I want, but the food is still clean. The reason I like doing it that way is because then, since you haven't really changed the type of food you're eating, you don't get that sick feeling the next day or even that night. A lot of times, if you're eating really clean, and all of a sudden you then have a cheat meal where you're going to McDonald's or you're eating a bunch of fried food, you're going to get sick. And it's almost like a hangover type feeling the next day. I mean, you're miserable. I don't like doing it that way because, number one, I don't want to put all that toxins into my body. Number two, it's easier on my body because I'm not putting it into basically shock. And three, you don't get sick, so it's much, much, much easier to continue on the next day without, laying in bed going, man, what did I do last night? So those are the two different types of cheat meals. Of course, I much prefer the one that's the cleaner foods, the same type of foods you're eating, just maybe more carbohydrates, a little more fat, not worrying so much about what types of foods you're putting in your mouth or how much, the quantity of foods you're putting in your mouth, but basically what types. Now there is one thing with cheat meals. When you are eating really clean and you do have a cheat meal, you might notice that that night you wake up sweating. And that is kind of the big benefit with cheat meals. Cheat meals are here for a few different reasons. The first one is, for most people, it keeps them looking forward to something. They're excited about it. They can't wait till Saturday night. They can go out, they can have dinner, they can have a glass of wine, whatever it might be. But they look forward to it. So it keeps them going. The other thing, and this is the real benefit from the nutrition standpoint, from the weight loss standpoint, it spikes your metabolism. That's why you wake up at night sweating. When what happens to your body is your body gets used to eating the same foods. And your body kind of goes into a homeostasis very quickly. So whatever you're doing, your body gets used to it. And so because you're eating clean, because you're eating less calories, your metabolism slows. So what happens is then all of a sudden one day a week you shock it, you give it a bunch of extra food, the metabolism all of a sudden then kicks back up. And you may wake up in the night sweating. That's totally normal, and it's actually a good thing. It means your metabolism has kicked back up from that cheat meal. So basically, I think cheat meals are important for many different reasons. One, to spike your metabolism. Two, it also will really give you something to look forward to. And three, going back to that first kind of group of people that are kind of all or nothing, it teaches you that all or nothing isn't really the way to go. You want proper balance in your life. And that's what we work on with people that are like that. It's getting them to accept the idea that one cheat meal will not make or break anything. It will benefit them, but it doesn't have to send them off the deep end. It helps them to learn that the all or nothing mindset isn't really the best way to live. It isn't really the best form of balance. So we start off, like I mentioned, we start off slowly, just maybe doubling the carbohydrates one night. And through a series of, maybe 6 months, we slowly build up. And I have had this work with client after client, that we start off real slow and we slowly increase. And typically what we'll generally do is we'll make their cheat meal on leg day, because that burns the most calories and they're a little bit more accepting of doing it that way. And we slowly build up until they'll finally get to a point where they realize they can eat whatever they want that night and it's not going to destroy what they've done. It actually gives them some motivation. So there's ways to work on that, and it just takes some time. So that's my take on cheat meals, or deviation from the norm meals. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below or send me an email. And as always, have an awesome day.